The caterhamracer.com Season 8 Championship is sponsored by Just Add Lightness, first for Caterham LED lights and in-car communication. By Design and Display Structures, immerse yourselves in worlds beyond with bespoke projection screens. By DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage. And one-to-one on-track coaching with simulator training and with Ryan Hooker. We're also supported by Darren Burt Performance Driver Coach and FP Zero Simulators. Getting set for more Caterham Racer action here tonight as we head to our third round of Season 8, and it takes us to arguably the most famous circuit of all in the UK, the home of British motorsport, the Silverstone circuit. Not just any layout for Silverstone, it is the full Grand Prix circuit that the real world Caterham Motorsport drivers will be tackling next weekend, coming up on the 18th and 19th of June. But before they get there, maybe one or two who are competing that weekend again, a little bit of extra track time and preparation before they head to Northamptonshire next week. But of course we've got a championship battle that is raging between two DPR teammates at the front, as it typically tends to do, and this tonight will be the next chapter in that one. As you can see, the cars in action tonight are the top of the Caterham ladder. The Caterham 420Rs are out in force once again, and this could be an advantage to some drivers, it could be a hindrance to others. Scott Woodwiss and Chris Hutchinson back in the commentary box here again. Chris, of course, having done your second real world Caterham now at commentary, having competed the weekend at Snetterton, ever improving, ever getting used to it, and of course now we move on to a very fast circuit. But first of all, how was your second weekend of commentating on real world Caterham action? It looked like you were starting to grasp the ropes a little bit more.
Yeah, good evening everybody. Thank you, Scott. Yes, I actually starting to relax into it a little bit. I don't think it'll ever become second nature, but I've definitely enjoyed the challenge. And it's good to see all the cars out for real, and now back into the virtual world where we get to see an all manner of different mix of drivers and talents, including racers and sim racers. So I get to see other people and enjoy their racing. And we often, on Scott, we often say that the racing on here is just as good as the real world. And I think we've got a selection of drivers on here tonight that hopefully will prove that.
Certainly will. We've got some, of course, for those who are following, got some regular Caterham racers who have done so, even not now, they've done the last couple of years and have won races and come close to winning championships, if not having won championships in the case of one or two of them. And so they certainly will be able to show their prowess here amongst some of our regular drivers who either don't race Caterhams but own themselves, or possibly thinking of doing so, or are just keen sim racers in their own right. There is a great mixture of drivers out here tonight, as there always is in the caterhamracer.com ranks. And they will certainly be strutting their stuff again on this circuit. Of course, this is, as we say, the full Grand Prix circuit for Silverstone. We'll be starting on as the F1 cars would do, on the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight, and it will be essentially from the wing pits, potentially this is down midway through the course, they swing through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. With these cars, Chris, of course they are the lightest cars, the most powerful cars, they have tons of grip, tons of acceleration, they're going to move around a little bit in some cases, but on the whole, these cars are very entertaining to race, and as I said earlier on, they favour some drivers, but they don't favour others. So tonight will be intriguing to see just how quickly some drivers get adapt to them more than others, or if someone can transition from the Academy cars to the 310s and then to the 420Rs and adapt to all three in equal measure.
Yeah, we definitely see it with our drivers, don't we? That some of them just seem to tend higher up the grid when they're in the 420s. Other ones much prefer the Academy, and there's others that like the 310s. So it's always a difficult challenge for drivers to hop in and out of different cars, and that's what we're making them do this season. So they're not only are they having to sort of learn one car for the whole season, they are actually having to have the skill of balancing all that out. One person, who's Guy Crawford, is a driver who we regularly see do well, and I think it's the 420 he favours. I could be misspeaking, but he's certainly up in 5th place at the moment in the qualifying session, so that definitely looks favourable for his performance tonight.
Of course, we'd like to keep the drivers on their toes, because in previous times we've run all one car for the whole season, like the Academy car, the 420, but just if we keep changing per meeting, it keeps them on their toes, it keeps them just kind of guessing and kind of having to readjust a different grip and power level, so not making it too easy for some of the drivers out there as they go through. So just under 7 minutes in qualifying. Whilst that qualifying session is going on, it might be a good idea to kind of reflect you on remind you of a couple of points. First of all, the schedule, and also then the point structure as well. So in terms of how the season looks, of course, it follows the real world 2022 Caterham Motorsport season. So we've had the meetings at Brands Hatch, Indy, and in the Snetterton 300. And of course, as we said, was the Caterham Academy cars at Brands Hatch, and then Snetterton in the Caterham 310R cars. Now for tonight's race, we have our first 2 races in the Caterham 420R. Each of the 3 cars will be driven twice across the season at least. So we still have Donington Park on the National Circuit in the Academy cars, Caterham 310Rs at Anglesey, and the Caterham 420Rs at Knock Hill, where in the real world they'll be running in both directions, called I think the Super Weekend for Caterhams. And then we have a driver vote for which car they go for, because their final round of the season will be at one of the best circuits in the world, Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, and they get to choose by driver vote. Either they choose the Academy, 310R or 420R car, it is up to them. We never usually let our drivers pick too much for themselves, but we give them the liberty to allow at least choose their car for their final meeting of their own preferences. So that might prove key, depending on who might prefer one car over the other. When it comes to championship standings, it's been quite a battle up towards the front between Christian Szaruta and David Rowe in this mix, and they've both been up there pretty much slogging out back and forth between them. And so these guys will probably want to try and get themselves in there, and they have done so far. It's Christian Szaruta on provisional fastest time so far, 2 minutes 24.286. David Rowe 3rd fastest, but the man squeezing in between them, Chris, Paul Donkin. Now, he does have experience in these cars in real life in 420Rs. I've also seen him racing Hondas before previously, but Paul Donkin showing his prowess not just to race a real-world Caterham, but to translate that, as Christian and David had, and others, into the sim car, and actually doing quite well, as we typically tend to see him do whenever he's in the groove in these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. He missed Brands Hatch, he missed the opening round, but he was there last time out at Snetterton, and he achieved, I think it was a 4th and a 5th place, something along those lines. So, yeah, definitely no slouch on the racetrack in real life and in the sim world as well. So, yes, he's out there and doing very well. And tonight he's in an orange car. We can see him on screen there in his orange 420R. Yes, some sort of different colours as well in play tonight. We've got Max Haynes, who we don't see or haven't seen, is relatively new to the service, and then Ian Joyner as well, who's been doing extremely well this year, and sort of currently in that 5th place. So some names up there that are definitely higher than we might expect. We're missing a few people. John Lang is actually on B grid tonight. I think he wasn't able to get on and practice properly. And Ryan Hooker, one of our season sponsors, unfortunately he's been at Anglesey and Alton Park, I think, so he couldn't get back in time for the racing this evening, but he's, I'm sure, watching on the stream and joining in that way. But yeah, Ryan Hooker unfortunately can't make it, but he will use that as one of his drop scores. Just like the real world, we do have a drop score system to allow people to have a life outside of motorsports.
I think the drivers also, of course, Ryan will be, I'm sure, teaching plenty of his clients, as he does with his one-to-one driver coaching, one of our very valued and trusted sponsors for Season 8 of caterhamracer.com, as Chris just said. With this particular circuit, of course, I remember last year when the Caterhams went there, and there was a real mix of weather conditions, because initially it absolutely tipped it down with rain, and the drivers, particularly the 420Rs, had to go out there and really tackle the conditions. They were very fortunate to have those bespoke Caterham Avon wet tyres that these cars run now in real life with the 2021 spec, with the suspension, the new tyres and the increased rev limit. And these cars really did perform pretty well. They're in the bone dry now, which means they'll be going ultimately as fast as they'll ever go on the circuit. But this circuit really is, I find, in many cases, apart from the arena section, it is a very fast circuit, lots of long flowing corners. But it is a circuit a bit like Donington where momentum counts for a lot, particularly when you've got the section, which I think is one of my favourites in all of World Motorsport, which is the run down to Copse all the way down towards the exit of Stowe. You need to keep your speed up and your momentum through there and get your line absolutely right, particularly for nailing a qualifying lap, because the way the car swings from one corner to the other, you've got to carry so much speed through. And given these cars are that lightweight and have that much grip and have such a high power to weight ratio, trying to keep it all in the straight and narrow, regardless of how much grip you've got, in one of these cars is never easy, because they can get twitchy if you push them a little bit too hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And just look how wide the track is in comparison to a Caterham. We can go 6 wide into a corner. I don't think it would be a particularly wise thing to do, but just the sheer scale of the car versus the track. This track is designed for Formula One. It's a thorough, it's not really designed for a Caterham, but it does mean that, the corners are absolutely rapid, as we see Mitchell Costas just losing the reel, gathering it up nicely, actually. Did that nicely tucked into the apex, but it's also such an incredibly long lap in a Caterham. Compare this to Brands Hatch Indy, and it's just absolutely night and day, the difference. It's absolutely a momentum track. You will see drivers going side by side because the toe is strong down these straights, but equally, as soon as you go off that racing line and you start narrowing the corners because you're going too wide into a corner, it does substantially alter the speed you can take around, as we just see Jamie Peters-Ennis losing a little bit of time there as he drifts a little bit wide, snaps to the front wheel. But only a minute and a half left as well, because that's another factor to take into account, Scott, is that it just takes a long time to get a lap in here, and you won't get that many laps in this short qualifying session.
Yeah, only 15 minutes, it means you've really got to try and pick your moment. And if you are going to start drafting somebody, you're finding a drafting partner to go down these long straights, you've got to try and make sure that you don't get too caught up in the turbulent air, and that you trust the car in front not to have a mistake or an error, which can happen to anyone. But of course, you've got to be very careful when you're picking your drafting partner or your partner around after you're going to give that. It's going to be pretty tricky. Just going back to the 6 wide analogy that you made, I've seen 4 abreast go through Stowe Corner with Caterham, and that was a championship deciding move for, I think it was Road Sport or 27, or back then when it was either Supersport or Track Sport, one of the two, but it was a 4 abreast move down to Stowe on the last lap, and I thought I'd seen everything when I saw that, before I saw that one, and that was pretty extraordinary. In terms of the qualifying session so far, Christian Szaruta, as we tend to expect him, is currently top of the times at the moment, 2 minutes 24.235. I think he's just at the back of these 3 cars heading down the hangar straight now. Paul Donkin, as we said, is in the pit lane, but he is just under half a second away from pole. As we see Christian Szaruta here, he's continuing on a lap. And you're right about the length of the circuit, because you're only really going to get, if you get out there straight away, putting good laps, if you're quick enough, you will get, I think, at least, if you don't go to the pit lane all the time, you continuously go around, you can get a maximum of 5, potentially 6 laps if you cross the line before the timer hits 0. And that really means that you've got a couple of chances to go through, but there are several drivers, as David Rowe. I'm not quite sure that's the right line, David. We're using the proper Grand Prix circuit, not the classic layout. So
we'll overlook that one, shall we? I don't think that was a good one to catch there. You can see all the drivers are completely, in one area of the track as well. They're all trying to get that toe and trying to get that little bit of advantage you get by following someone else. Some of them not making that. Have they made it onto that final lap? It does look like some of them will be able to do one more continuous lap, which will be useful as we see them going off around that village loop and down onto the Wellington Straight.
Yeah, it looks like the car just ahead of Andrew Parker is going to be the first one, I think, to complete its last flying lap and take the checker flag in this session. Andrew Parker, who has been up and down a little bit in the grid. He's been sometimes towards the mid-pack, sometimes towards the front, depending on whether the circuit or the car seems to favour him in any cases. But Andrew's certainly one of those who seems to have it working so far. 4th fastest in this session. That'll put him on the second row for tonight's first of 2 50-minute races. As we now look at...
That's Max Haynes, that one, in 5th place. So, yeah, it's just lost his name tag, unfortunately, there. But, yeah, Max doing a great job up into 5th place. And Ian Joyner, we mentioned them earlier. He's also sort of up there in 6th place. So, great results for them in this qualifying. Obviously, we've got the final lap to complete. They're in that overtime, as you can see right at the top of the screen there in the little message, which means that they will be able to complete this lap, as long as they cross the line before that checker flag got dropped.
It's impressive stuff for 2 people who are relative newcomers to the A grid, at least. Both of them had a couple of runs in the B grid. It's the first time I've seen Max Haynes in the A grid. Ian Joyner has been there a couple of times. So in that instance, it's been quite good for both of them to do a good job as they come through. David Rowe currently sitting in third. I was going to get onto the times before David Rowe decided to inadvertently sabotage Christian Szaruta, that not purposely, you understand. So Szaruta fastest, Donkin second, Rowe third fastest, only just behind by about 0.4 of a second. Andrew Parker, as we saw on screen a few moments ago, fourth fastest at the moment, with the two relative newcomers to grid A. Max Hainsley enjoying currently settling the third row of the grid. Here's another one of our newcomers, Blaine Cresswell. Don't know too much about him, but he's doing a not too bad a job. They've just been just inside the top 10. 10th fastest in this session, just behind Paul Donkin there in the multicoloured, almost what I like to call Harlequin coloured car. I think back to the Golf Harlequins that used to run where they had multicoloured body panels. It's Guy Crawford in 7th fastest, Richard Harwood 8th, Tom Willis 9th, and Blaine Cresswell running out that top 10. Mitchell Costers, who I expect to be a little bit higher up, is only 11th player fastest. JP Peters-Ennis, who we know prefers different cars to others and maybe isn't so favourable with the 420i in some aspects, and 12th quickest. But we can give you a quick rundown of the results from that qualifying session as everyone has taken the flag. And so it is Christian Szaruta then who will start the first race of the week of the day from pole position. The championship leader will have Andrew Parker. That's intriguing. Alongside him on the second race, last lap there from Andrew Parker actually saw him rise from 4th to 2nd. So a brilliant effort to put him less than 4/10 away from Zaruta's pole time, puts him on the front row of the grid. He could be a factor, as could Paul Donkin as well in 3rd place, particularly with David Rowe, who is the highest placed current challenger to Christian Szaruta on the grid tonight, because we don't have Jensen Hasler. He's not here this evening. He starts from 4th on the grid. Then it's the two relative newcomers, Max Hainsley and Joyce, make up row 3. Guy Crawford will be a little bit disappointed, but he'll be looking to make progress from 7th on the grid alongside Richard Harwood. He should be very happy with 8th, one of his best qualifying results so far. Tom Willis back down in 9th, and Blaine Cresswell, another one of our newcomers. Netherlands starts 11th alongside Jamie Peters-Ennis in 12th. The 7th row of the grid sees Ben Maskell and Steve Varnell. Still be quite disappointed being that far down in 14th. Matt Shepherd could see him pop back on the grid. He starts 15th alongside Adam Whitehouse. And then it's Paul Fernhoff and Michael Coomber who round out the 18 car grid that we have for tonight's first of two 15-minute races for the caterhamracer.com Season 8 Championship, round number 3 of this particular season. So I've got the championship points in front of me here as well. I wasn't sure if Chris had the graphic or not, but Christian has 100 points on. Let's run through the total scores and then possibly look at drop scores if it's relevant. Because on total scores, Christian Szaruta has 198 points after 4 races. He's taken 3 wins and a 2nd place so far. Jensen Hasler is 2nd place at the moment coming into this meeting with looks like 2 2nd place, a 3rd, and something a bit further down the order in the top 10. From Snetterton. He's on 184 points. He's 1 point ahead of David Rowe, who has 1 win to his name, the only win that Christian Szaruta hasn't picked up so far this year. It's John Lang 4th, who's again in grid B, as Chris mentioned. Richard Gallagher 5th. It's Jamie Peters-Ennis doing very well so far in 6th, but he might have to work hard to keep the points back up in 6th position. Then Chris Skillicorn 7th, Mitchell Costers 8th, Paul Fernhoff 9th, and Ian Joyner rounding out the top 10 so far in the point structure. So Szaruta on pole then, Chris, as we tend to expect many times. But Andrew Parker in 2nd place. If he can get a good start and get himself in there, as with Paul Donkin, these two main championship contenders from DPR might have something to think about rather than battling amongst themselves in the early laps.
Yeah, definitely. And Andrew wasn't able to join us at Snetterton, but he did very well at Brands Hatch. So he will be right up there when you start taking drop points into account. Obviously, it's a bit too early in the season to do that. But nevertheless, yeah, he will be looking to get those points up there. And a great starting position alongside Christian Szaruta, who certainly looks like he's got the pace, doesn't it? He outdid his pre-qualification he did yesterday. So his quali time today was actually faster than he did manage in the whole of pre-quali yesterday, which was a great performance there. Like you say, Jensen Hasler not on the grid with us tonight, unfortunately, so he will have to then use that as one of the good, because he has been right up there on the podium multiple times. As the lights come already, Scott, already.
Yep, so Szaruta on pole on the right-hand side in white, black and yellow. It is Andrew Parker in grey and orange on the left. Let's see who wins the whole shot down towards Abbey Corner for the first time as we get race 1 of round number 3 of Season 8 of caterhamracer.com underway. Decent jump from the 2nd row from David Rowe. He really tries to muddle his way in between Parker and Donkin between them, but it's Szaruta who will turn in relatively unchallenged, and he will lead the way up towards the complex for the first time at the loop. So Szaruta leads. It is side by side for 2nd between Donkin. Well, Donkin has 2nd place. So David Rowe up to 3rd. So after starting on the front row, Andrew Parker was already down to 4th. He's keeping with the top 3 already. The rest of the pack seems to be getting through pretty much unscathed. And now they come out of the loop and through Wellington, and that through the left-hand entry and onto the Wellington straight for the first time. They'll be tucked into the slipstream now, all four of them together. And this is interesting because Parker was trying to get a drafting partnership with David Rowe. He has done that, and they've both started to keep tabs with Paul Donkin. And Donkin so far hasn't let Christian Szaruta typically get away, because we've seen this before with Christian. When he gets into the lead, he tends to try and pull away pretty quickly on the other guys behind. But Donkin seems to have the pace to pull away. There's a breakaway quartet in the lead. The next group is headed by Tom Willis, who's had a very good start from about the fifth row of the grid, already up into what was fifth position. But now Guy Crawford has now squeezed his way up into the top five. So initially there's a breakaway quartet trying to get away in their own lead group, but everyone else behind, it's an absolute bun fight already down towards Copse for fifth.
Yeah, amazing the gap that's already been generated there. So something must have happened in that mid-pack. You can see they're all still going side by side as Guy Crawford and Tom Willis going side by side around turn one there. Yes, so really something must have happened to extend that gap, but you can see them all fanning and coming through the Beckett's, Maggots S's as they sort of flow on around this long Grand Prix track. One of the drivers, it looks like Tom Willis, might have gone wide in the background there, and someone else just close as you like. There's a little bit of contact. You can see that one of the cars is sideways there. Couldn't quite see who that was, but it was getting a bit feisty in that midfield.
Might be Richard Harwood, I think. He was just ahead of Blaine Cresswell, so seventh place man just holding on to that. Very good car control, getting the car very sideways. They've got a lot of grip with these cars. They do tend to snap if you get them too oversteery, but they can twitch back the other way if you catch them quick enough. Now, a strong start has always been seen from many people from Peters-Ennis, I think, or that's another white car now. I think that's possibly Ben Maskell, who's come from quite far down. He was about on the 6th or 7th row of the grid. He's already inside the top 10. Though I say that, he's been shuffled back down to roughly about 15th place. So, curse of the commentator, to put him down for what was the top 10, all the way down to the base of it. So he was battling there quite hard with the likes, I think, looks like Cresswell and Harwood, and Crawford was in there too. End of the first lap, Szaruta leads by about 5.5 tenths of a second from David Rowe, who has worked his way to second place, and likewise also into third now, has gone Parker past Donkin. So Paul's initial advantage, where he was able to keep with Szaruta and be the man that was the runner-up in the pack, has now dropped back 2 spots to the slightly more experienced drivers in this series. And just behind, I can see it was side by side between Willis and Crawford for 5th and 6th position. Crawford sticks around the outside and just has the inside line. He has trap position for the next corner, which is a left-hander. A little flick of the tail, and he gets his way up through the left-hander entry onto the Wellington straight for the second time. Against Willis all over him as they come down towards Brooklands for the second time, Chris.
Yeah, and I think Willis will have a little bit of a run up here into Brooklands. Brooklands at the end here. So it looked like he was going to get that all the way through, but he didn't manage to complete the move. Guy Crawford definitely protecting well there, as we've seen him do many a time before. The following packet has calmed down a little bit. We have seen a couple of drivers fall down the order because of that, as we see Kosters and Arnell still fighting out there on the exit and out onto through Woodcote, and now back onto the old start-finish straight for these sort of halfway around this new version of the Grand Prix track. As I understand it, I think the Caterhams are actually going to be running the old start-finish straight for the full Grand Prix track when we are there, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after. So just a reminder that, we're doing all this tonight, but in a few weeks' time, we're going to be doing it for real, and why not pick up a ticket and come join us for real?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is on the main, what they call the Heritage Pit Straight now, with the old pits where the Grand Prix Pit Straight used to be. Of course, in originally, the pit straight did used to be on what was the straight that had led them down towards Woodcote, towards Brooklands, Loughwood and Woodcote. It used to be the old straight when they first started in Grand Prix racing, back in around about 1948, 1949. So the pit straights had 3 different locations around here. I'm pretty convinced that in about 20-30 years time they'll move it down the Hanger Straight to complete the set, but we'll wait and see what the plans have in mind for that. Now, in the head of the field, he looks like David Rowe, as he tends to do, hasn't quite let Christian Szaruta get away. Now, these two, of course, are teammates, being part of the DPR stable, but they're only teammates by name, because typically when they get on track together, they don't ever really work together. They tend to get pretty close in terms of their battles on track, and then they do tend to have quite a hefty scrap into the lead, and sometimes they get away with it. Sometimes, Chris, they don't quite so get away with it, and there is the tiny bit of contact sometimes.
We've definitely seen it before, haven't we? Many a time, and I'm sure we'll see it again. Even this year, though, they have been the absolute class as David Rowe, late on the brakes as you like, going into the loop, and manages to get it all hauled up. Sorry, I think it was Village, wasn't it? This is the loop. He managed to get it hauled up, but in the long run, Christian Szaruta may have won that battle. No, it's won by David Rowe. So all that worked out in David Rowe's favour as they go back out onto that Wellington straight. But we've seen them swapping these places all the time. They're very used to each other's driving and how they work together out on track. But they're definitely not working together right now, but they're still managing. They have the outright pace and therefore can, as we see Christian Szaruta swooping around the outside there, but Rowe keeping it nice and tight on that apex, managing to collect it all together. Szaruta now back up the inside into Luffield though. He's drifting a little bit wide, knowing that David Rowe can't do anything about that. Rowe has to let him get that position out front, and given the width of this track, you can see how much they can manoeuvre each other around, and they'll do that lap after lap, and it's quite exciting to watch.
David Rowe solid in the double dummy there as he heads up towards Copse Corner. Darts the inside line. Where have we seen this before in real life? This time into Copse, can they make it through without contact? They can just about. Rowe almost leans onto Zaruta's head, exits through the right hand, and he just about touches wheels. They're going to go side by side down towards the complex of Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, and you have to sort it out before you get to that complex. They have, and I think it looks like Rowe has indeed got through. So David Rowe then takes the lead here on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. But the one thing, of course, to keep an eye on is look at the two cars behind. Donkin and Parker are taking full advantage of the fact that the harder these two find each other, as I've said so many times, the easier it is for the cars behind to take advantage. So they are now in that slipstream. Of course, remember, if you've watched Assetto Corsa and so many streams before, in Assetto Corsa, the magical gap that you need to get a tow from the car in front of these Caterhams is half a second. They're within that gap now, so they are getting the benefit of the tow. And we're back to where we started on lap 1. Slightly different order than we had on lap 1, but it's the same 4 cars with Rowe now in front, all together back in for the podium places. So we go 3 abreast down towards Stoke Corner. We've seen this before in real and sim Caterham racing. We've got 95 of Peters-Ennis Kosters going up the inside. It was the Seabard L was in there as well, and looks like he's been passed by both Kosters, and also Matt Shepherd in there too is the recovering. I think that's Ian Joyner in there as well. Another is Ian Joyner in there too, and there's contact between all of them, and that means now that both, I think, looks like Kosters and Shepherd were involved in that. But unfortunate for both of them, and both, it looks like Joyner and Maskell swept through and went, you have your own accident, boys. We'll just carry on and do as we do.
Curse of the cameraman that time. Yeah, Shepherd just going down the inside and couldn't get it hauled up in time for that Vale left-hander and just clipped Kosters around. You could see that Matt Shepherd was waiting for Kosters to get back in the race. We ask if there is contact out there, and we ask our drivers to wait for the person they make contact with so that they don't gain an advantage, and they will serve their penalty in line. But we do have a post-race review service as well if they can't figure it out online, as Christian has to take to the grass as David Rowe covered off the inside there. But we do have a post-incident review as well, just like you might do with the clerk of the course. So we try and keep things as real as we can to the absolute racing. Like you say, the side-by-side has mean we've got a front quartet again now. It's Donkin's right back in there, and Parker's just having a watching brief.
Rowe was having to put a wheel onto the curb to try and hold onto that inside line, because although he did force Szaruta to give him the room. As they come up through Copse Corner, through Woodcut now towards Copse, Donkey now gets himself right onto the roll cage of both of the leading pair. Andrew Parker has the best ticket in the house watching these two. Donkey has the audacity to go down the outside but has to back out of it. But is he looking to make the undercut through Copse Corner? He does think about it, almost taps the rear of Zaruta's car, and now the 4 cars together are all charging down towards Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. If they're going side by side, someone's going to have to come out on top. It's going to be, I think, Rowe by just the nose, unless Zaruta's brave enough to go stick it out on that outside line. Now the inside line for the next corner, which he then has to give up. And again, donking all over the back of Szaruta, with Parker also in there as well. Watch for Guy Crawford in there in 6th position. He's not too far behind. And also a couple of seconds further back from him in clear air is also Tom Willis. So we've seen this before so many times. If these 4 keep on scrapping, it'll make the lead group bigger and bigger, and it'll keep on extending. But at the moment now, it's anyone's guess between these top 4 who's going to come out on the podium. Never mind the victory.
Yeah, you can see Guy Crawford has been slowly catching this front group as we ride on board with him round Stowe Corner there. But he has slowly been catching up as they've been fighting, and that they're getting bigger in his front camera there, and we can expect him to join that battle as long as they don't have any issues out front. He's definitely catching up with them.
So they head out of the complex of Club and onto the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight once again to end another lap. We've still got 5 1/4 minutes to go. As now it's time for David Rowe to do some defending, but for once it's not from Christian Szaruta, because Donkin was right in there in the tow next to the final corner. He might have a good run as they come towards the arena section. Now further back we're looking at it's Richard Harwood. He's battling over 6th place with Tom Willis, who almost exited stage left, but he reappears and shot from behind the timing tower. Now Harwood with a beautifully executed move round the outside. He took advantage of Willis getting wide through there to hold on to the position. Willis will try and fight back. He looks to try and have the inside line, but Harwood has that covered off. We've seen this before, because Willis will try and get the switchback exiting the loop and now through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight, and it now puts Willis in a prime position to be in the slipstream to try and attack here. A little further back, a couple of places behind them, we've got Steve Arnell battling with Jamie Peters-Ennis, who is someone who is always pretty good in race. He might not be the fastest qualifier, but he tends to usually get pretty good starts, and on top of that, he is very good, for the most part, at keeping his nose out of trouble and slowly picking his way through the pack and picking up positions. So he's inside the top 10. He started just outside of it, around about 12th or 13th place. But again, someone who is pretty strong, and he came into the weekend 6th in the championship points on 163. So it proves that in many cases, yes, front runners like Szaruta and David Rowe will be quick enough, as he's now coming under big pressure from Steve Arnell, but bagging a consistent number of strong points finishes, it all adds up towards the end of the season, as Arnell has a look up the inside towards Cops to retake 9th position. They hit the brakes together into the right-hander, and Arnell takes the place, I think with a bit of a bump in the rear there from Jamie Peters-Ennis, but I think he's just about got the traction back again. And now Ian Joyner, who's one of the two cars recovering from that little spin that they had, or getting caught up in an incident between Shepherd and Kosters, back there at the place. Meanwhile, Chris, it's all kicking off at the front as Rowe continues to lead, but it's possibly could be a change up a second as Donkin is all over the back of Szaruta down the hanger straight.
And look at Guy Crawford, who is right on to Parker on that, so it's a quintet at the front now. As we just joined them, crikey, go 3 wide into Stowe. That's quite exciting. Christian's drifted off, and Donkin up to 2nd place up the inside there. Christian Szaruta, though, is going to hold on, I think, round that. He's going to have the inside into Vale, so he'll use Rowe as a blocker, and therefore Donkin won't have the opportunity. He's going around the outside. He won't work around the outside there. Rowe does shuffle him to the edge of the track, and he manages to get all back under control. But there comes that's Donkin around the outside, but Guy Crawford is now very much a part of this battle. You can see his nose just there as we're coming into the latter part of this race. It might well be towards the last lap now.
I thought for a second that Parker skipped the chicane because he just arrived off the tail of the top 3 very suddenly, but he came just from the left of shot. So I think he simply just misjudged his braking. He had to go through the classic layout of that part of the course, where they, instead of taking the hard braking zone into Vale and then Club, they take this slightly faster sort of left-right sweeping kink, because the Donkin runs wide on the exit of the village into the loop. Rowe continues to lead, and he reappears in about 4th or 5th position with Guy Crawford up into 4th place now. So the nearest challenger for Szaruta is going to be Andy Parker, who was his front row mate at the start of this race. And now they come down the Wellington Straight once again. It's side by side for 4th between Donkin and Crawford for the best of the rest outside the podium. And David Rowe has a small gap here to try and pull away, but it is 2 by 2 into the left-hander of Brooklands, and Szaruta just about holds on for the time being. It's still 3rd for Parker, and now Crawford has got past Donkin, but Donkin repasses him heading into Lufford up the inside. There's all sorts of battle going on here, but again, as I said earlier on, the harder these 4 fight each other, the easier it certainly is for Rowe at this point in time to start making a break, and he hasn't. And Szaruta and co haven't got long to rear them in, because, as you said, Chris, it's only a lap and a half to go here, minute and a half to go, so they will go on to the final lap of the race next time they go past the Lewis-Hamilton Straight across the line. So if Szaruta wants to get back up here and win this race, he's got to A, try and drop Parker as quick as possible, and B, get straight back into the tail of David Rowe to try and stand a chance of passing him. Yeah,
Donkin and Crawford have tripped each other up, but you're right, it looks like Rowe is scampering away at the moment, and Rowe is the only other person other than Christian who's managed, or Christian Szaruta too, who's managed to take a win so far this season. Of Andrew Parker looking up the inside later on in this big S-bend sort of sequence. It's not a normal place to overtake, but with the intensity, which was already pretty high, has definitely taken another step up, and I'm sure we could see this all come back together again. It's going to depend now whether Christian can catch up that small gap. You can see Rowe is trying to keep out of that tow by moving and weaving down this straight, and at the moment it looks like that's working. He's just over that half-second gap to Christian. 1 lap, well, just over 1 lap to go.
So it's all or nothing now for these 5 cars here, and also it could be 6 soon, because Richard Harwood has tried to drop Tom Willis, and he has by 1.6 seconds, and he's not that far away from the battle for 4th, so there is a chance here that potentially he could get involved if these two cars right here, the 2 orange cars in shot, start to hold each other up. So 20 seconds left on the clock as the cars head over the line to start the final lap of this first 15-minute race tonight of round 3 of Season 8 of caterhamracer.com. And Christian Szaruta has possibly either got to be tuned in on his in-car radio, or it seems to be telepathic, because either way he seems to be listening to what he said he needs to do, which is 1, try and get away from Andrew Parker, which he's almost done, but he's still got him within his radar about 6/10 of a second back, so he's got him outside the slipstream range. But the second key part is here, Chris, he's got him right into the range that he needs to be, right under the roll cage, exiting through the loop and through Aintree, to try and make a pass here. Knowing Szaruta, he won't sit back and just think for an opportunity around here. If he senses a chance to go, as he's looking for here and forcing Rowe to go defensive, he will go for it down towards Brooklands.
He is absolutely going to the outside, isn't he? So Rowe did have to defend to the inside, but he's going to have that momentum up just for the time being. Just about a half a lap to go, though, and it only took half a lap for Christian to get back on him. Parker's definitely faded a little bit as Christian's just got his pedal down again, and we're looking like we're going to come to a crescendo round the Beckett's S's, and that's something we've seen before, and it didn't work out last time we saw it.
We've still got the Maggis, Beckett and Chapel complex, but we've also got getting to Copse here, and then further down Stowe, Vale and Club, and then the pit straight. We've still got half a lap to go here to settle who wins this first race. As we mentioned, David Rowe has only won one of the first 4 races. Christian has won the other 3. So at the moment, it looks like it's going to be another DPR driver on the top step of the podium. The big question has got to be, is they always go side by side, which one heading towards Maggis and Beckett? Very close, and there was almost contact, but thankfully Szaruta backed out of it just at the last second as they head through Maggotts and through Beckett's, and Szaruta is again locked under the roll cage of David Rowe's cars. They turn their way out through Chapel. Parker is there, slightly distant. The battle for 4th could become a 3-way scrap because Richard Harwood has been using all that clear air to close in and try and capitalise on the scrap that both Donkin and Crawford have been having over that position. But now down the back straight, and Szaruta tries to slow him a dummy, and he might have worked. He looks up the inside towards Stowe Corner, and Rowe tries to take the wide approach, trying to hit the wider line into the corner, but Szarutas got through. But Rowe's depending on the undercut here on the exit, which he does get on the exit, so he pushes him onto the curb. Now they're side by side again. They almost bang wheels down towards the complex at Vale, but Szaruta has got the inside line, and he can now on the inside. He has to try and park the car on the apex to get the undercut and the switch back through here. Rowe tries to get through, but Szaruta does park it on the apex of the first part of the club, and an ingenious final move with the final couple of corners. Rowe's victory is denied. He will try towards the line. It's going to be very close. It's going to be a photo finish between the 2 cars, but Szaruta just beats David Rowe to the line, and he does it only by, we'll see the gap towards the end when we get the back up on the screen at the final results, but Szaruta does indeed pick his moment to perfection to pick up that win from David Rowe from under his nose. Andrew Parker hits a well-deserved 3rd, then it's Phil Donkin 4th, and then Guy Crawford rounds out the top 5. And I have to say, Christian Szaruta, we tend to call him the fox, don't we? Because he's always quite cunning in which way he's able to pick a move up and try and steal a victory, and that is textbook Christian Szaruta. He set up David Rowe into Stowe Corner. It started on the exit through Maggis, Beckett and Chapel because he managed to get him down the hanger straight, did the dummy down the straight, set him up for the switchback, and that's what got him the track position he needed to take the race victory in the last couple of corners.
Yeah, absolutely spectacular stuff there. It didn't look possible, did it? Coming in with about 3/4 of a lap to go, it just didn't look like that was going to happen. But a great bit of driving, and he just managed to block the momentum entirely of David in that final Vale sequence, just like you'd expect that wily old fox.
So results from race number 1 of Silverstone Grand Prix tonight, and Christian Szaruta does indeed hoodwink his team boss David Rowe to take the victory, and only by 74 1,000ths of a second. That sounds pretty Caterham-like to me in terms of a winning margin. Second place for David Rowe. He'll be a bit disappointed with that, but still strong points for the championship, and he will at least move ahead of Jensen Hasler, at least to hold in second place. Andrew Parker will be very delighted with 3rd. They'll give him a few more spots in the championship after that result. Paul Donkin picks up 4th, and he holds on from Guy Crawford, and also a charging Richard Harwood, who was only 4/10 of a second behind 5th position, and what could have been a top 5 finish on one of his first time we've seen him in this field for a while. Tom Willis did well to start from just inside the top 10 to get up to 7th place. Blaine Cresswell finishes his first Group A race in 8th. And it's Steve Arnell and J. Peters-Ennis, again, very impressive starting outside the top 10 to finish just inside it by finishing P10 in the last couple of laps. Ian Joyner got caught up in a couple of incidents. He is down in 11th, Ben Maskell in 12th, who had that spin early on the first couple of laps. Max Haynes, Mitchell Costas, Paul Fernham, Adam Whitehouse, Michael Coomber, and sadly Matt Shepherd, who we lost. We didn't lose him. He was right down towards the tail of the field after he made contact with Costas down at Vale and Club in that first race. So the second race is just coming up, and I almost catch my breath back after that one because that was quite intense, particularly towards the end of it. And now we're going to have to wait and see if Christian Szaruta can try and make it 2 from 2. But if there's one man who will have nothing but revenge on his mind, it is certainly going to be David Rowe, because he will be certainly, accept it was a fair fight, but at the same time be internally quite frustrated that he can't, only once this year, so you've been able to get the better of Christian Szaruta. And of course, yes, they're teammates, yes, they work for each other in the same team, but they're still racing drivers, they're still competing amongst each other in this series, regardless if it's sim or real. So David's going to have to try every trick in the book here. If he can get a good start, you might only have to deploy a couple of them to try and hold up Christian Szaruta depending on how strong Christian tries to attack in the opening couple of laps, and then keeps him busy for the next 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, you can bet that David Rowe's hurting a little bit after that one. He definitely got bested, didn't he? But it was not for want of trying, and he was looking like he was showing them all a clean pair of heels. But great return back to the podium for Andrew Parker, and Paul Donkin absolutely showing that he was willing. Towards 3/4 distance, he was I think in second place. So manipulating the race very well from his point of view. And I think now that we've got a bit of a reset going on, Guy Crawford, he could move. He could be a contender in this second race. He certainly had the speed to come across to them, didn't he? And Richard Harwood looking like he had speed late as well. But we're all back compressed and close together on the grid again. So it's who knows what's going to happen. And they haven't got the cautioning factor of a second race anymore. This is the second race of this evening. So will we see the ante upped even more?
Potentially. Well, this is Szaruta versus Rowe, so there's always going to be the ante will always be upped every single time they go out on track, whether it's real or sim. But of course now this time it's a familiar but at the same time new front row mate for Christian Szaruta, because instead of Andrew Parker, who now sits geographically behind him on the track, it is now David Rowe who sits alongside him just off to his right. But of course, as you absolutely correctly said, I think the two guys to watch out for are going to be Guy Crawford, and I think also Richard Harwood. He was getting some pretty good pace in the second half of that race to catch up to the battle for fourth place that we had between Donkin and Crawford. So he will want to try and capitalise on that and build on that pace throughout this second race. If he can get a good start and get amongst them again, he'll be someone who can try and pick their way through. I would also anticipate as well, I don't want to talk him up too much because I don't want to put the commentator's curse on him, but Peters-Ennis, he's the fifth car on the left-hand side. That is the white car with the rainbow stripe down the middle of the purple roll cage. He, again, doesn't always qualify well, but he's also quite, as I said in that first race, very strong in terms of his race pace and keeping his nose out of trouble and picking his way through the pack. He's very good at that. And again, if he starts strong in the first couple of laps, could even be on the edge of a top 5, I think.
Yeah, and Arnell also sitting alongside him in that ninth place. He was also out of practice, so he will be picking up speed as the lights come up.
So Christian looking for another double as he did at Brands Hatch, but David Rowe wants to try and make it one apiece as it was at Snetterton. How is this story going to write itself in the second race at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit for season 8 of caterhamracer.com? Let's find out as they all squirt away from the grid down towards Abbey for the first time. Let's see who wins the whole shot on this occasion, and it's going to be Szaruta, who does hold on with, as you'd expect, David Rowe rides on his tail. Almost four abreast on the exit Abbey corner there. It looked like it was Willis battling away with Harwood and Crawford as they head down towards the complex of the arena for the first time. And Harwood, as I said, is attacking, but so is Tom Willis, the silver and black car down the outside to try and pick up fourth and fifth position. They come out of the arena section through Village, through a loop, one car off to the right-hand side. I think that was Whitehouse in that car who was off the road, but he's just about held on to it. How he held on to that, I've no idea. That car was pointing at a 45-degree angle off to the right-hand side, but somehow he managed to hold on to it. Down the Wellington Straight for the first time, and now it's back to battles drawn again. Rowe has got himself in front through the complex, but again, Szaruta goes diving down the outside line. He likes that outside move, as Rowe has also done at the same time as well. And Rowe will try and get the undercut on him here, but Rowe has got the outside line. He might have enough grip to try and hold on. They are going to go wheel to wheel once again, and who's going to win the duel next at the corners that come into shot? Szaruta's back in front. We're kind of back to where we started at the beginning of race 1, Chris. It is Szaruta, Rowe, Donkin and Parker in that top 4 group, and everyone else behind scrapping for 5th. We've seen this before, haven't we?
We definitely have. It always looks like a mirror race, doesn't it? With Crawford, just that gap appearing in front of him in these early corners. We did see Tom Willis also at the loop exit getting shuffled back. You can see him a little bit deeper in the field than we would normally maybe see him before. So yeah, he's going to have to work back up there. But Arnell has managed to keep in that sort of 10th, 9th place, and Peters-Ennis early on has made a couple of places up into 8th. As we are now watching Guy Crawford with that gap opening up again. It was the front 4 just absolutely continue their battle as it was. But now we've got Donkin out front. Somehow he's managed to manoeuvre himself through those opening couple of corners into the lead of this pack.
Challenger emerges then. Paul Donkin works his way to the front. As ahead of, I'm sure, quite a bemused David Rowe and Christian Szaruta, because I think he held a minute. Where have you come from? David Rowe gets to run down the outside line, gets the slipstream into Stone Corner, round the outside he goes, and into the lead once more. Christian Szaruta, meanwhile, is caught slightly in a sandwich between Paul Donkin and Andrew Parker, which is not exactly where he anticipated or wanted to be. Down towards Vale for the first time under brakes. Donkin gets close, but he just about holds on. They turn their way out of this complex of corners through the left-hander at Vale, the double right-hander through Club, And these Caterham 420Rs take them onto the pit straight to end lap number 1. It's Rowe, he leads it, Donkin in second place, Szaruta down in third, Andrew Parker in fourth. Now, as it was at the start of the first race, is that second group of cars that's led by Guy Crawford, and Richard Harwood is going with him this time. So if these two can start to close up, as they did in the first race, it will be a case again of the front few cars battling amongst each other, the cars behind taking advantage, and that lead gap getting bigger and bigger as Donkin again goes up the inside to try and go for the first part of the complex in the arena through Village. And it's Rowe who parks the car on the apex to do a loop, and Szaruta says thank you very much, has a look up the inside in towards Aintree, and just about forces Donkin offline, which then gives him the momentum he needs to get in front, and then slots straight in behind David Rowe. Christian Szaruta, if he wasn't fired up at the start of this race, he definitely is now as he goes for it down the outside. Likewise, Parker and Donkin. Here we go.
2 by 2 into the Brooklands complex then. Szaruta out really wide there, manages to get it all back. David Rowe also out wide, but managed to get it collected together as they go into Luffield, but 3 wide round the Luffield. If the real racing in a couple of weekends' time is anything like this, it's going to be a breathless weekend for me. But yeah, looking forward to that, and I hope the real world can do that. And make sure you get your tickets. Come trackside, come watch this. But Szaruta under massive pressure on Donkin. Donkin looked like he was going to give Szaruta a bit of a shove there just to get his speed up. He was a bit of a bump drafting, which you can do in the sim world. You can't really do it in real life because the radiator's the first thing you hit when you do that in real life, and we've seen plenty of times before burst radiators spoil races. But it's that top 4 out front yet again as they come through the Beckett's, Maggots, S's as they come onto this second lap, and it doesn't look like it's going to relent at all.
Top 4 covered by practically less than half a second at this point in time, which is just about Caterham-like. I've seen it quite close to that time before. I think the biggest pack of Caterham I've seen in a league group was one of the 270R, 310R races. There was a 32-car grid or so. 27 of them at one point were creating a lead pack. It was like watching a NASCAR race. It was absolutely fantastic, as is this battle, as it's going to go 3 abreast in towards Stoke Corner. We've seen this before, but Donkin goes shooting down the inside of both of them. So see you later, boys. I'm back up the inside, but Rowe will try and fight back on the exit of the corner. Just about gives a little love tap to the front right wing of Donkin, and he holds on to the place just about and gets the lead back again. Szaruta goes sailing down the outside into Vale. They're the inside line for Club, but Donkin's wise to that, parks his car right on the apex on the exit of the corner, and he holds on to second place. But look behind them also, because not only is Andrew Parker in fourth, but Guy Crawford has latched on, and as I sort of predicted, Richard Harwood is in there too. So it's now a 6-pack for the lead as Donkin looks back up inside Drabby Corner. What a race this is so far.
It's brilliant. You can see the absolute ebbs and flows of cars as some of them take a little bit too much speed on the way in or try and get an overlap on the way in, but that costs them through the middle of the corner, and you can really see that as the person going into the corner is rarely the person who's coming out in the lead. It's absolutely breathless and sort of. Yeah, I don't think we can count the number of lead changes we've had so far as they're still 3 wide. Andrew Parker trying to make it 4 of them, all going through and back onto the Wellington straight for the 3rd time.
Had this before, Donkin out wide on the exit of Aintree, and now it's 2 by 2 again because Szaruta, he's been denied the chance to get it through into the slipstream, and he almost made contact with Donkin and realised at the last minute that Donkin was right on his rear wheel. And Szaruta goes diving into the corner at Brooklands, just about gets it stopped and almost goes into the back of David Rowe. It is 6 of them for the lead so far, but I keep on watching behind because look at the 2 cars that are also trying to catch up. That's the blue car of Max Haynes, and also, again, I tipped him to do well in the side of the top 10. Peters-Ennis is up to 8th position, and he's not. Both those 2 cars are not that far away from this group as it continues to get longer and longer. And this is typical what we see in Caterham racing. The front few cars start to battle, and more cars latch onto the lead group and make it bigger and bigger. These cars are not being allowed to get away. They're scrapping so hard amongst each other. It's just making the lead group much bigger. Szaruta goes out onto the AstroTurf, almost loses the car, and Donkin gets the run off second place as they head back towards Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. They're going to have to sort themselves out sometime because there's still, from what I can see, 8 and a bit minutes to go. Yeah,
8 minutes is a long time to keep up this. And like you say, Harwood and Haynes and Peters-Ennis, they're tantalisingly close to the battle now, aren't they? It's really within reach. And as they still maintain their 2-3 wide on every single opportunity they can, they are going to come and figure in this race within the next couple of laps at this rate.
And I think the next one to latch onto the queue is going to be Max Haynes in 7th place, as we said. Peters-Ennis is about a second away. They're going to go 2 by 2 again as David Rowe has the rare luxury in this race of taking the proper racing line. Everyone else behind has to go side by side with somebody. On the exit here, it's now Szaruta down to 4th place. He'll be absolutely frustrated about this because he's not the place he wants or expects to be. He's got cars all around him now rather than being out in clear track ahead of him. Trying to get up the inside now. Looks like it'll be Crawford. There's a bit of contact there. Up the inside goes Crawford, and Harwood's in there as well. Christian Szaruta is exactly in absolute hell right now. He's down in 5th position. He might be secretly enjoying himself in this one, but in terms of the championship connotations, David Rowe is taking maximum points at this point, while Szaruta is floundering down the top 5 as he's got several cars around him. Harwood's in there too. Max Haynes has caught up, but he set the fastest lap of the race as well. And that's the key thing here, is that these guys are so hard battling amongst each other. There's a bit of conflict there, I think, between Crawford and Szaruta. I think Szaruta couldn't stop the car, and he was lucky he didn't clap into the side of Andrew Parker. There is all sorts going on here, and there is still half the race to go, Chris.
Reminds me of the Michael Schumacher Benetton years. You know, whenever he slipped back into the 5th to 10th place, it was always a matter of how is he going to get back to the front, because surely he will. And the moment is he's still sort of getting in the walls, isn't he, in this 4th place, and there's only a number of other cars ready to take over. He clipped Crawford's wheels just on the braking point, and that sort of unsettled his car and meant he couldn't stop the car. And like you say, he was lucky not to take Parker with him, as he was just about able to stay on track.
Max Haynes has taken 6th position already from Richard Harwood, so he's getting stuck into the mix already. And just look behind him, you can see both the white car with the purple roll cage there is JP Peters-Ennis, and the all-white car behind him is the charging Ben Maskell. Remember, he had a spin early in the first part of race 1. He's now got himself back into the top 10 after making that recovery drive to 10th in race 1 and staying in 9th position. So it's broken up a little bit now, but David Rowe has Paul Donkin to try to chase after him. Szaruta is at the moment still stuck in 5th position behind Parker and Crawford at this stage as we head into the final 6 minutes of this second race. And they're still going side by side again as Szaruta wants to try and follow Crawford through. Parker's wide to the first part of this S's section, and now look at both Haynes and Harwood in there too for 6th and 7th. Peters-Ennis isn't too far behind either at 8th. Paul Donkin now, is he going to possibly do what we almost thought was the impossible in some cases and try and win a race other than be the first driver other than a DPR race, DPR driver to first driver other than a DPR driver to win a race in caterhamracer.com for quite a while, because it's mainly been the Szaruta and Rowe show, and so far Donkin is giving as good as he gets and pushing hard. Szaruta has worked his way into 3rd place, but he's still under big pressure from Parker and from Crawford and now from Max Haynes in there as well. Harwood's not too far away, and Peters-Ennis is also sailing up to the back of them, and so is Ben Maskell. And also you've got to keep on, if there's contact further back, that's also Harwood getting involved. That all started, I think, by looks like Crawford getting sideways. Harwood tried to avoid him, and I think either there was contact or not, I'm not sure. Szaruta is up to 3rd, Haynes is 4th, Parker 4th, Haynes 5th, Crawford still holds on to 6th somehow, and then it's Peters-Ennis in 7th place now, Maskell 8th, Kosters up to 9th place, Indian Joiner in 10th, and there is still 5 minutes to go.
And there's Max Haynes temporarily up into 4th. Yep, he's up into 4th place ahead of Parker, although Parker's going back round the outside as they go into the village for the 4th or 5th time. Guy Crawford's not done yet, though. He had a bit of that sideways moment, but he's still managed to maintain. He had a bit of a wheel-to-wheel contact with James Peters-Ennis up the inside of Crawford there, so he is making that move forward. Side-by-side contact between Crawford and Parker as they went down Hanger Straight. That's what sort of started off that little shuffle back and allowed Christian to get into that 3rd place, and now disappearing off the road trying to catch the lead too.
Looks like David Rowe's outside the half-second range, and he might well be at this point in time potentially safe. That depends on whether or not Donkin can keep with him in these next few corners and can bring that gap back down, and also whether or not Christian Szaruta can use the clear air that he's got now to try and close up to these top 2 within the next 4 and a bit minutes. So Rowe makes his way through Woodcote then at the end towards the halfway point on this lap with Donkin on his tail. And now we go back to 4th place onwards. We've got Parker in 4th position, Haynes in 5th. JP Peters-Ennis is up to 6th place now, scrapping with Guy Crawford. Up the inside he goes into Cop's corner, and he will have trap position, and he does get through. So he's got to be careful on the undercut that Guy doesn't try and get him back on the run towards the complex. And he's usually quite good at keeping out of trouble, but at the same time he can sometimes find himself in a bit of a situation where he inadvertently gets wiped out, and hopefully that doesn't happen. Look at that beautiful switchback from JP Peters-Ennis, trying to get the undercut through the corner. He does go around the outside of Beckett's in towards Chapel and gets the place back. And a top 5 could still be on the cards here, because he's not that far away from both Parker and Haynes scrapping. As our exit stage right over the grass goes Guy Crawford. He backs out of it and also is under threat now from both Maskell and Kosters. Where'd he come from? Kosters was quite far back on the grid. He's now sideways up through the order, keeping his nose clean, and he holds on to the position now. And Peters-Ennis was going into Stoker Corner in 6th position, still with Crawford to his outside now. He'll have trap position on the left-hand driver's left to take the left-hander up at Vale for this next corner coming up, which he does. JP Zenithal still won't give it up. He's going to go around the outside and elbows him out wide. This is brilliant stuff for these guys, and they've still got a couple of laps to go. They've got to sort themselves out somehow, Chris, but it's brilliant entertainment wherever you look in this race. Up at the front, in the middle, or towards the back, there is battles galore in this race.
It really is, and it's that everyone's doing the same, aren't they, and managing to keep it all well under control. Crawford looking up the inside of Peters-Ennis again there, but start playing that Jaws music in case Christian can break that gap back down to Donkin. He was 2.7 seconds, so actually there's a little bit of contact in the background there. Is that Peters-Ennis around, or is it one of the white cars?
No, it's Ben Maskell. Peters-Ennis is carried on for the moment. He's still in sixth place right now, as he's still unthreatened now from Joyner and Kosters. Crawford has dropped back to ninth, so I'm not sure if it was possibly contact between maybe Crawford and, I think if Crawford was involved, he got away with it, slipping down to ninth. For Ben Maskell, he's down to 12th, so I got my heart was in my mouth for a second now. I thought it was Peters-Ennis, but it wasn't. It was the other white car involved of Ben Maskell. So as they come into Brooklands once again, still the battles rage for these top 5 and top 10 spots. It is still currently 6th position for James Peters-Ennis, but he's under big pressure from both Ian Joyner in the grey car and then the kind of crimson coloured car behind them, the crimson and white car, Mitchell Kosters in 8th place, the Dutchman. As they come up through Workett Corner, we're on board with Mitchell now. That's the view he's got, staring at the roll cage in the rear end of Ian Joyner's grey 420R. How's the run? He thought about going up the inside for Cops, dummied him up the inside. JP Zenithal has gone wide through Cops Corner, so that might well kill his momentum on the exit of the corner. As they now make their way up towards Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. Kosters tries again, but now Ian Joyner is more focused on trying to get the inside of Peters-Ennis into the complex for the first time between Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. Can't quite make it stick. He's still pushing hard to try and catch up to the two cars in front and get himself a top 5 spot as we head towards the start of the final lap of this incredible second race here at Silverstone.
Yeah, fantastic action all the way down this field, and everyone's having a piece of the action, aren't they? They're all getting involved, and Donkin is still not relenting. He's not got quite that strong toe that he might want, but nevertheless he is keeping Rowe well and truly within sight. It doesn't look like Christian's got the time in him to actually get back this time. He's only got that single lap. Unless these two have an issue, it does look like that it's going to be a third place for Christian right now, but it's behind where all the action's been. It's spread out just a touch, but we've got Peters-Ennis now leading that Joyner, and Kosters, it's relentless. Kosters hits that sausage curb, bumps his car up as they're coming around the final corners onto the last lap of this race. Peters-Ennis is now broken away, and the side-by-side between Kosters and Joyner might mean that he can actually solidify that now.
Peters-Ennis was very lucky that Joyner didn't tag his right rear, because it could have been disaster for that 6th position, but it looks like at this point in time that Peters-Ennis has managed to get away a little bit, because those two cars behind are so preoccupied with scrapping between themselves that he's got a bit of respite now to try and pull away. He might catch the two cars in front if they start to kick off before this lap is done. As for the lead, I think you might be right, Chris. I think it looks like it's going to be a third place for Christian Szaruta. He is trying to push as hard as he can, but he's still 2.5 seconds off of second place, and Donkin he's only just outside of the half a second range for a slipstream, so I can't see at this point in time, unless, touch wood, Rowe makes a mistake, that there's going to be any change in the race victory here, although Donkin will keep on pushing. He's inside half a second now, so I could be about to eat my words here for a second as Donkin gets very, very close, gets a slightly better exit, tighter exit off the corner, and he is within slipstream range now. They go, good corner. He's going to start edging closer down this the Heritage pit straight towards Cops now. If he gets another good run through Cops, not towards Maggots, Beckett and Chapel, and gets a good sequence of corners there, maybe there's an opportunity down the Hanger Straight, but he's getting pretty tight now. It's under 3.5 tenths now. Exiting Cops.
It really has closed up. You could see that toe working very hard for him, couldn't you, as you approached that last few corners? And is the dream possible? Can Donkin overtake on this final lap? We saw Christian do it to David Rowe on the last race. Can Donkin return the favour now in this first and second battle as we come onto the final half of this last lap?
So onto the Hanger Straight for one final time. The gap has dropped back to about half a second, but it's a long enough straight where you might get a good enough exit, and he's starting to get close. That DPR car just edging ever closer in his windscreen now towards Stowe Corner. If you can't get it here, you might have to try and set him up for a run into Vale and Club. He goes to the outside line. Rowe's not safe on the racing line. He has to go defensive, but he might compromise his exit. And Donkin is all over the back of him up towards the complex. It might well change as they come up towards it. Which way will Donkin go? Left or right into Vale Corner? He will have to sit on the racing line because I think he's a little bit too far back. But credit where credit's due, he's pushed hard enough. He's going to push him all the way to the checkered flag. But David Rowe will get his revenge from race number 1. It wasn't quite with Szaruta behind him. He's back in third, but that will help him for his champion chances, no doubt. David Rowe heads to the checkered flag and takes victory in race number 2, a thrilling second race on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Rowe wins, Donkey in second, it's Szaruta in third place, and it's Parker and Haynes fourth and fifth. Peters-Ennis will hold on to sixth place, a great drive from him in race number 2, solid effort from him, a fantastic drive to sixth. Mitchell Costa seventh, Ian Joyner eighth, and it's Guy Crawford and Ben Maskell who will round out the top 10. And that genuinely, I don't say this lightly, that is one of the best Caterham races that we've had, I think, since we started this back in April 2020. That was a thrilling race at the front, lots of passing, lots of overtaking. David Rowe wins. It's not a new winner, but still, that race practically had everything, including a little bit of drama at the front.
What a fantastic race, and what a great selling point for Caterham Racing, and ready for the real thing. But David Rowe, brilliant to control that. Donkin did his best to sort of interfere right at the end, but couldn't quite make it. And Christian Szaruta, after that mid-race battle, did well to come back into that third place. But Andrew Parker, I'm sure, will be pretty happy with a third and a fourth place this evening. And Max Haynes, what a result to get fifth. And like you say, Jamie Peters-Ennis making his way up from fairly low down the order in qualifying to make it to, I think it was 10th in the first race, and then 6th in that second race. So yeah, great effort.
So the result from that incredible second race is David Rowe take victory from Paul Donkin in second place, and the Christian Szaruta has to settle for third place, 3.3 seconds back from his DPR teammate and main championship rival once again. Andrew Parker put in another strong drive for fourth. Max Haynes on one of his first Grid A performances gets an excellent fifth place. JP Zedis equally an excellent sixth after his drive, starting 10th. It's Mitchell Costa 7th, Ian Joyner 8th. Guy Crawford will be gutted starting back down and finishing in 9th after he was up in that league group for a while. And Ben Maskell with a good recovery drive after his issues in race 1. He's back up into 10th place at the flag. Steve Arnell, quite evenings racing for him, but he finishes 11th from Matt Shepherd in 12th. And Richard Harwood, who was in that mix as well, he had that coming together, I think, possibly with Guy Crawford. He finishes back down in 13th place. Then Blaine Cresswell, Paul Finehoff, Tom Willis also had troubles early on. And then Michael Cooper and Adam Whitehouse rounds out the 18 cars that all still saw the checkered flag. Well, after that two races, Christian, I think it pretty much keeps Christian back in the lead of the championship. But of course, Jets Hasler's no-show. Also use those as 2 drop scores, obviously. But David Rowe's first and second place there will certainly do him no harm. And it Christian, that second race, he very critically grabbed some points back on Christian Szaruta in the overall standing. So that's going to be key. And ironically, if we're taking exact drop scores right now, Chris, that third place would be one of Christian's worst scores to drop. Yeah,
he's had such a season, hasn't he, already so far? But obviously the drop scores will start now becoming irrelevant and valid. So we will start looking into those from the next round onwards as the season progresses, and we will see how people are performing. But an absolutely great set of races tonight, and once the championship scores are all totted up with Andrew Parker now back in there and on fire again, I think things are going to start heating up.
Some of the drivers who made some big gains in the championship, I think the biggest driver, arguably, they made the most gains, depending on how the likes of John Lang did. I think, truthfully, JP Peters-Ennis, his 6th place will almost certainly give him a couple of good strong points to get him up the order. Richie Gallagher not here tonight, John Lang on the B grid. He would have certainly scored some strong points, and I reckon in many cases he could find himself as high as maybe 4th.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting to see how that all pans out, and make sure you check out caterhamracer.com, where all the championship standings and results will be updated overnight and available for review. So
I think it's post-race interviews time. I think I'm all certain there's not just the winners of both races. There's plenty of people, I think, if we can get them to speak to, for those who had very strong drives, very strong performances all night tonight. So I think this one might be a bit of a busy one, Chris. Not just the race winners, but several others who were certainly quite impressive tonight.
Yeah, let's make sure we get the podium. So let's I'll see whether we've got Andrew Parker. Andrew, have you got us in the commentary box?
Evening, chaps.
Yeah. So what a good return to the grid, Andrew. Great qualifying, 3rd and a 4th. That's a pretty strong set of results, especially given the action out there.
Yeah, that's probably my journeyman status is 3rd or 4th, I think, in this grid, if Christian and David turn up.
Yeah, they've definitely got a little bit of pace there, haven't they? What are we going to do about that? How can we manage that one through?
Ban them.
We could do that. There's certainly ban them is a good solution.
Reverse grids. Maybe we should do a poll to our viewers.
You're full of ideas. I think we got to do something to get them out of it, haven't we? So, but yeah, I would say though a strong set of results, and from the championship point of view, that's going to be good for you.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's always great racing here. The 420s really lend well to a GP track. Just the long straights bunching the pack up again, and as soon as you get a bit racy, Guy he seemed to be 10 seconds behind, then all of a sudden he's on your rear bumper in fifth. So it's a great track for that.
Yeah, superb stuff. So we'll see you again next time out.
Cheers, chaps.
Okay, I'm gonna. I don't think we've spoken to Paul Donkin before. We're gonna see if we can get Paul into the commentary box. So have you got us here, Paul?
I have indeed. How are you, Cheesy?
I'm very good. And what a set of races tonight. I mean, it was action from absolute start to finish. So you must be pretty exhausted.
Yeah, it was good. I'm kind of exclusive on iRacing at the minute, so jumping on Assetto, I've always found it quite hard. But again, it's just if you give anything enough practice, you can improve. But these Christian and David at the front have still got the edge, clearly.
Yeah, but that last lap there, that was looking. It wasn't looking possible, and then suddenly it all came back to you, and you must have been getting quite excited towards the end of that last race.
Yeah, it was decent. Obviously, I think Christian got caught up with some other battles behind us, and David. I mean, I was just kind of hanging on to him. Really, the only way I could keep up was really in his draft. But then he dropped it on one of the turns, closed the gap to a few tenths, and I was tempted to have a go, but I thought, well, we've got this far, so I'll take seconds and hopefully have another good race like that next time round.
Yeah, no, it's a good effort, and we look forward to more of the same. So, yeah, like you say, switching between the two sims is not an easy job. And so, yeah, well done, and we'll look forward to more of the same later in the year.
All right, thanks, guys. Speak to you soon. Cheers.
Yes, and before we get on to our top two leaders, let's see if Jamie's around. Jamie, have you got us in the commentary box?
Hello.
So, Mr. Peters-Ennis, what a sort of a progression through from quali all the way up into sixth place and within touching distance of that lead battle.
Yeah, I was rubbish in quali, wasn't I? Yeah, it was good. I got excited when I saw Christian because he'd obviously dropped back, and I thought, I was catching the lead group, and then Mr. Crawford was keeping me busy. I've just been watching it back again, and yeah, I wasn't gonna give up without a fight, definitely.
Yeah, I'd say the whole of the front group are having sort of the same sort of sideways action, side by side action. So, yeah, great way to end and a fairly solid result for your championship. And I guess looking forward to more of the same later in the year.
Yeah, I think on dropped scores, I think I'm still just outside of the top 10, but I think there are a few people not here tonight. So on net, so without the drop score, I think that does move me up one, I think, to fifth, but I'll find out tomorrow morning when it's all been calculated. Consistency,
I'm sure, will be the key, and that's certainly been a strong point. So well done tonight, and look forward to seeing it in the next one.
Thank you.
Great stuff. And let's get David Rowe in the commentary box. David, have you got us in the commentary? Hello, David.
Can you hear me?
I've got you now. Yes.
That's better.
Yes. Another win, so you have taken another win away from Christian, but that first one must have been a bit sore.
No, not really. It was just such great racing. It was just, at the end, I was like, fair play. That was a great race, and I didn't mind the P2.
He just parked it on that Vale exit, didn't he? And there's nowhere for you to take that momentum. So again, Christian doing Christian things, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There was, I think me and Christian did about 20 block passes on each other during both of those races. It was quite amusing. But no, it's great. Really good fun. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, great stuff. And managed to get the momentum and still keep out in front of everyone, which was pretty impressive to see. But yeah, it was pretty relentless. So well done tonight. Good championship score, but you've got to stop that, Christian, at some point.
Yeah, I'm going to need to. I mean, fortunately, got the wingman, Paul Donkin.
Yes.
I've done some races in the Focus Cup World Championships with him, and that was it's great to have him a bit of quality to the grid, really.
Absolutely, and stealing points away. So maybe a bit of training in the background, maybe get him down to the simulator at DPR headquarters.
I don't think he needs it, mate. To be honest, he's rapid. So no, hopefully Paul will continue for the rest of the season, and we can pester Christian.
Very good. Look forward to seeing you on the next one, and good luck at Silverstone.
Good stuff. Cheers, mate.
All right, let's finally endure the Szaruta. Christian, have you got us in the commentary box?
Hello.
I can hear the smugness already. Now,
the smugness.
I mean, the first race, obviously, incredibly, fast and throughout was just incredible. But you did manage to do one over David on that final lap.
I did, and it was, of course, highly satisfying as per usual.
Yes, but in that second race, didn't have it all your own way. Did drop back to about 5th or 6th at one point, so you had to work a bit.
I got turned into the pinata of the race, where it felt like I kept getting nibbles left, right, and centre. It just kept
to be fair,
dropping me back.
To be fair, we did see what we would call a dive bomb into the village. Yeah, we did catch that.
That was actually non-intentional. There was some side contact with Guy Crawford.
But overall, the racing this evening looked pretty spot on, and you must be feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, as you can imagine, I was chuckling myself the entire way through, particularly at the end of the first race. That was very amusing.
Indeed, and the first and the third place is not going to be too shabby on your championship score.
Yeah, disappointing to not keep the clean record, but it's all good. It was very good fun, and it's nice to mix it up.
We've already got Andrew Parker calling for you to be banned, so we'll see where that goes. Yeah. All right, we will see you again a bit later in the season. As long as that ban doesn't uphold itself, we'll see you a bit more for more action.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I think sounds like everyone's had a good time, and so it's kind of what we're designed to do, right? It's supposed to be fun, and it sounds like everyone's had a lot of fun.
Yep, that's the main name of the game in many cases, and that certainly has been 2 great races. I think we've certainly enjoyed from the commentary box. It sounds like all the drivers have too, as well. So in terms of the Caterham season itself, the real Caterham season, well, as Chris mentioned, the next official rounds for them are next weekend on the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. There's the rest of the schedule, which is essentially mimicking what we have here at caterhamracer.com. So Donington Park, Anglesey, the Knockhill Superheader, where they will race in both directions over the course of the weekend. I believe it'll be one day it'll be the clockwise direction, and because Knockhill's licensed to run both ways, they'll run the second day in reverse, which means that when they go over the Caterhams have done before, but when they go over that crest of the uphill chicane, it'll be a downhill chicane, and I've seen pictures of more than one Caterham get all 4 wheels off the ground. That's either terrifying, exciting, or both in equal measure. And of course then Spa-Francorchamps is their final one. There will be some Caterhams on that same weekend in October that will also be racing at Silverstone, so it will be a double super weekend when you have one couple of Caterham championships still back home here at Silverstone on the international circuit, but other championships, like I believe at least the 7 UK cars, and I think also 270 and 310s are going to be in there as well, if not possibly Road Sport and 270s at Silverstone, and then 310s and 420s.
It's Road Sport Academy at Silverstone, and the rest of the field are all going to be out at Spa, so they are all very much looking forward to that.
I was trying to work out whether or not Caterham would finish their season. The Academy guys have finished their season before they got to Spa or Silverstone or not, but turns out that'll be their final meeting. But that's what we have coming up there. In terms of our schedule, of course, this is what's coming up here next. The next time you'll see caterhamracer.com is going to be right at the end of the month, 28th of June, because, of course, Donington National is the next weekend after that on the 8th and 9th of June, if I got that right. So Donington National on the Academy card. Anglesey International will be back on the Caterham 310Rs on the 2nd of August. There's a bit of a month's break or so between that. Then we have another month or so break with Knockhill in the Caterham 420Rs, and then the season finale for caterhamracer.com season 8. We'll see them on the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, as we alluded to earlier. Even though we don't like to let our drivers decide many things, we allow them to vote on what car they want to run, either the Academy 310 or 420R car, whichever they choose. That's the car they will run on the 4th of October for the season finale. And who knows, whoever prefers that car and might be in the championship winning position might well hope that the vote goes their way and gets the car what they want. It's been another fantastic evening's worth of racing, Chris, to round off. And of course, there's still this ever-long, evergreen battle that goes on between Christian Szaruta and David Rowe. There's 1 or 2 new contenders getting in there now, and it is starting to get closer and closer. We've talked about, as the season's gone on, the fact that it's not just the same drivers at the front. There are new drivers that are coming towards it, picking up the pace, starting to get towards that front. And tonight was a great example of that. It wasn't just the Christian Szaruta and David Rowe show. There was the likes of Paul Donkin, Andrew Parker, Guy Crawford, Max Haynes, Richard Harwood, even J.P. Peters-Ennis getting close as well. Several other drivers that are catching up and finding more pace, and it's happening more and more often. So this is going to be possibly a case where, as we go through the next couple of rounds of the season, maybe these 2 DPI boys might not have it their own way the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's very possible, and surely going side by side like that is not possible to do for a whole season, so some mistakes are going to creep in, and that will open up opportunities, I'm sure, for other drivers as well.
So, many thanks for those who've been watching tonight. Be sure to tune in for the next caterhamracer.com rounds towards the end of the month. And also, if you want to tune into all the action, if you can't make it to Silverstone, it'll be live on the Caterham and BRSUC YouTube channels as well. Of course, this very fine commentator alongside me in the comment block, Chris Hutchinson, back on comms once again. And as we sign off, of course, we couldn't do caterhamracer.com without our very loyal partners. So to sign off and say thank you for watching tonight, we once again remind you that the caterhamracer.com Season 8 Championship is sponsored by just Add Lightness, first for Caterham LED lights and in-car communication. Design and display structures, immerse yourself in worlds beyond with bespoke projection screens. DPR Motorsport, your competitive advantage, and by one-to-one on-track coaching and simulator training with Ryan Hooker. We're also supported by Darren Burke, Performance Driver Coach, and by FP0 Simulators. For myself, Scott Woodwiss, Chris Hutchinson, and all of us here at caterhamracer.com, thanks for watching. Tune in next time at the end of the month for more action from the next round at Donington Park. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.